Hope you're ready. Comments are disabled for this video.
In the meantime, we'll play some Tetris music for you.
This is episode 3 for March 18th, 2014. Let's chat. Welcome back, best and the brightest. This is Magic Chat with Dan and Mike. I'm your host, Dan Levant, and with me today, as always, is the lovely and talented Michael McKenna. Mike, who's our sponsor this week?
Well, this week's sponsor is the guy who sells steaks out of his trunk to the fine people of Temple Games. Keep going, guy who sells steaks out of his trunk. One day he'll get a sale.
Omaha Steaks.
Ooh, the best.
They're from Omaha. He probably drove out to Omaha.
He did.
Loaded them into his trunk and drove them back here. And he's always like pushing him. He's like, I've got a steak to buy. You expect him to open up a raincoat
Yep.
and have chops hanging.
A nice piece of steak. One day you'll sell a steak.
All right, before we get into the show, I got some great news. It's an exciting show we got coming up. I'm really thrilled about it, and we got some great news about the podcast. First of all, we are live on the MTG Cast website.
We're official.
We are. That's mtgcast.com. I believe I'll include a link in the show notes for this episode on the blog. Secondly, we are on iTunes.
Yeah, surprisingly still relevant.
It actually is. And we're psyched to be there. So go on iTunes, you do a search for Magic Chat with Dan and Mike. We would love it, appreciate it if you guys would like us and rate us and comment and do all those things that get people to notice us. And the third great exciting piece of news is, Mike, our listenership has more than doubled since last week.
More than doubled.
We have 4 listeners now.
4 listeners?
So to all 4 of you, I want to say thank you for sticking with us.
Hey guys, I'll name them out individually at the end of the podcast.
We will call you
I'll do it right now. Steve, Ryan, Jimmy, and Christine. Thank you for listening.
We wouldn't be here without your support.
Thank you.
Really would. No, the listenership is definitely going up. I'm excited to see it. We're getting lots of hits on the feed, so
it's pretty sweet.
Really happy. Here we go with our Pack One Pick One.
Pack sound.
I'm actually taking it out of the box I have it in right now.
Look at all those packs.
Yep. Born of the Gods that I sort of didn't win last night.
You did a great job winning that.
I did a great job loaning you the deck to win these with. Oh, Crunchel in there.
Fantastic.
All right, let's come off the bottom first. Blank advertising card. Oop. You got? Oh, only a forest this time.
Forest, that's much weaker than Island.
Card number 1 is the Fellhide Brawler. 1 in a black. Creature Minotaur. He's a 2/2. And he can't block unless you control another Minotaur.
It's bad!
Yeah.
It's bad!
I certainly wouldn't pick it high.
It's Traveling Philosopher with downside.
With downside. But if you have Minotaur, if you're all in on the Minotaurs, he definitely goes in deck. You could play him. He's not bad.
I would not want to play this card. I don't know. Bad Minotaur.
He's an aggro bear.
Bad.
Card number 2, Swordwise Centaur. Green for a 3/2. Creature, Centaur Warrior. Absolutely would play this.
Yeah, so it's the same as the last card, except for
a little more color restricted.
A little more color restricted. You get +1, +0, and it can block.
Straight up better.
Yeah.
So, he's not unplayable. You know what is unplayable?
He's pretty bad.
Our next card, Griffin Dreamfinder.
He has not found a single dream yet. He's
been
trying
this
for
is
years.
the 3/white for a creature Griffin with flying, and when he enters the battlefield, you return target enchantment card from your graveyard to your hand, and he's a 1/4. You know what? We were tainted with this card last week.
Yeah.
This one's getting the rip.
Sorry.
Never, ever, never would I play that card.
It's crap, kids. Don't play it.
Don't play it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Our next card is Evanescent Intellect. Isn't Evanescence a band?
It's about as good as Evanescence the band.
Yeah. For a single blue, it's an enchantment aura. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature has blue, 1 in a blue, and a tap. Target player puts the top 3 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard.
So for 1 blue mana, you get an effect that says target creature.
It does trigger
no other
heroic.
Text. That's it.
It does trigger heroic.
There's no other text.
Fearsome Temper. 2 in a red for an enchantment aura. Enchanted creature. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2, and has, for 2 in a red, target creature can't block this creature this turn.
He's pissed. It's a fearsome temper that guy has.
Yeah, it's an okay aura.
Yeah, it's fine. I like playing it. It's okay.
Thrill me, but I'll play it. Hold at Bay. 1 and a white for an instant. Prevent the next 7 damage that would be dealt to target creature or player this turn. I hate that card.
Yeah.
Enough said.
Sorry.
Nyxborn Shieldmate. 1 white. Is an enchantment creature, human soldier with bestow for 2 and a white. Enchanted creature gets +1/+2, and of course the creature itself is a 1/2.
This is a great example of evaluating cards differently between formats. Because in most formats, this card looks terrible. Like, just straight awful.
Yeah.
But in this format, it's a heroic enabler. When you need it, it's usually you don't want it as a 1-mana 1/2, but sometimes you have the nut draw with the ordeal, and you know you can just kill your opponent before they can interact with you. And sometimes it's your turn 3 drop after playing a Crow and Skyguard, and you make it a 3/4 and you start bashing your opponent. It's solid. Yep. I really like this card.
I mean, he's potentially swinging in as a 2/3 on turn 2.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
Yep.
If you got an ordeal. This is spicy.
And this is the pick so far.
Fall of the Hammer.
Yep.
1 and a red for an instant. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to another target creature.
Hooray, red's playable now.
One-sided fight. This is one of the better pieces of removal in the set.
I think it's very good.
Karametra's Favor. 1 and a green, enchantment aura, enchant creature. When Karametra's Favor enters the battlefield, you draw a card. Enchant a creature, has tap, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. I think this is straight up worse than Ilea's Presence. I know it technically ramps you.
Yeah.
But it becomes fragile because you're putting it on a creature.
What guy are you putting this on that you want to ramp? Like, it just doesn't happen very often.
I don't know.
Unless you're going all in on Chromanticore, which you shouldn't be, but it's sweet.
Well, if you open a Chromanticore, you have to take the Chromanticore challenge.
You're kind of forced into it.
Yeah.
Romanticore.
Our next card is Oreskos Sun Guide. He's 1 and a white for a creature cat monk. He has Inspired. When he becomes untapped, you gain 2 life, and he's a 2/2.
This is why Fellhide Brawler is terrible. This card is a million times better than it.
Infinitely better. I still take the Fall of the Hammer over this.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm just comparing the two.
If I get to run Oreskos Sun Guide, I'm very, very happy.
Yeah, it's a solid card.
Ghostblade Eidolon. 2 and a white. Bestow for 5 and a white. It's a 1/1 with double strike, and the enchanted creature gets 1/1 and has double strike. That's a solid piece of bestow work.
It's good. I think it's a little overrated, but it's a fine card.
The body that falls off is nothing, really.
It's really
nothing. That's one of the issues. That's what makes things like Nimbus Naiad better. It's because when the creature is bestowed on dies, or the Death Touch Eidolon,
Nimbus Naiad spoiled all of us. That card is insanely limited.
It really is.
Windrake with insane upside.
And I still definitely take the fall.
Yeah, I like fall so far.
A Crow and Phalanx. 3 and a white. Creature human soldier with vigilance. 2 and a red. Creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn, and it is a 3/3.
I like it.
It's a solid card.
Even if you can't activate the red. Well, if you can, it's much better, but 4 mana 3/3 vigilant is not bad.
Not at all. Acolyte's Reward. 1 and a white. Prevent the next X damage that would be dealt to target creature this turn, where X is your devotion to white. If damage is prevented this way, Acolyte's Reward deals that much damage to target creature or player.
Alright, I may be completely wrong here, but I think this is one of the most overrated cards in the set. I have been so disappointed with this card. It looks insane. Like, on the surface, this card is amazing. Like, we've had redirection effects before that have just been amazing. This one targets in a format where you want to target, but every time I draw this card, every time I have it, I never have the devotion I need. It's always just short, or my creature dies.
I think the real issue is that in Limited, it's much harder to control your devotion levels.
True.
You can't sculpt your deck around it as easily.
Mm-hmm.
And it just ends up being not good. That's why that blue devotion counterspell is just, I mean, it's infinitely worse than this card.
Yeah, it's part of why it's not
playable, is that you just can't build a deck in Limited that's going to take advantage of what it does.
Yep. What do we got for our rare?
Oh, this is a sweet one.
Uh-oh.
Astral Cornucopia.
Woo!
The casting cost is hardcore, apparently. XXX.
XXX.
It's an artifact. It enters the battlefield with X charge counters on it. Tap, choose a color. Add 1 mana of that color to your mana pool for each charge counter on Astral Cornucopia. So for 3, you get an artifact you can tap and get 1 mana out of.
What a deal!
Boy, I hate this card.
You can Trinket Mage for it.
You can. EDH players, keep that in mind. You can Trinket Mage for this.
Speculate on Trinket Mage.
Yeah. So I think Fall of the Hammer.
Yeah, I like Fall of the Hammer easy. Yep. I really like red now in this.
But now it's time for Magic News. All right, in Magic News this week, I think we're going to start with the tournament results. Did I say that properly? Tournament results. We're going to start with the tournament results.
We got there.
GP Montreal is the first one. This was a Theros Born of the Gods limited event. Gerard Fabiano took the event down. Again, with the limited events, it's hard to really kind of go through the decks that they have on radio because they are complicated, and a lot of one-ofs. The sideboards are very interesting to look at on the mothership. But the top 5 cards, from bottom to top, number 5 was the Akroan Skyguard.
Solid, man.
Love that card. When it first came out, I was looking at him compared to Wingsteed Rider, and I kind of asked on our Facebook page about it. And one of our friends mentioned that basically Wingsteed Rider was just straight up better because it was the 2/2 and all that. And my thinking at that time is that in a vacuum, I completely agreed with him.
Yeah.
But in Theros block, where you've got so much bestow going on and the ordeals and all the stuff you want to put on things, getting that body out a turn sooner with the heroic built into him makes all the difference in the world.
I think it complements Wingsteed Rider very well.
Yes, it does. I think they're both super good cards. The number 4 card they listed, Asphyxiate.
Yeah.
Solid piece of removal.
Still a good card.
Yep. Number 3 was an interesting one. Thenax, the God of Deception. This is the mill god. That
a lot of pros said was not good. People either seem to think it's the best card of all time or trash.
I think, like so many cards, it fits in a very niche deck where it's outstanding. At TempleCon, I played against our friend Giancarlo, who built the blue-black control mill deck. And it was outstanding.
Yeah, I ended up doing it as well in a later draft, and he was pretty good.
Yep.
Just killed people on the spot.
If you can get all the fun pieces for that deck, and being able to block with return phalanx and then just mill them out after combat for 3 cards gets pretty powerful.
I see the reason for people not liking it so much. It's a blue-black card, and it forces you into 2 colors early, and generally I don't like picking gold cards that early, but I think Phoenix is powerful enough that it's worth at least seeing if it's open.
Yep. And is that a color combination in this limited environment that's not as heavily drafted? Is there a better chance that you're going to get, like, who's going to take the Defender tree?
Yeah.
Unless they're doing that.
I think it's worse than it was with Triple Theros, but I still think it's fine. Blue-red's still terrible, but all the other ones seem to have gotten slight upgrades, and I think blue-black dipped a little, but it's still good.
Yeah.
Seeing at the GP, there was a draft viewer for Alexander Hayne, and he first picked this card, and his deck was insane. He was getting awesome. 6 and 7 pick Shipwreck Singers and just like Impact 3. It was unbelievable, So when it's open, it's open.
It's really open. The number 2 card, God's Willing. What is there to say? Just one of the best combat tricks in the set.
I love this card.
Yep. I remember the first time I went to play it, I didn't realize that you could only target your creature with it. Made me very sad. I was going to stop someone from putting an aura on their creature.
Oh, yeah, that would have been sweet.
Yep. And the number 1 card that I believe Gerard Fabiano had 2 in his deck?
2. That's
Celestial
more than 1.
Archon.
Mm-hmm.
How do you end up with 2 of these?
I don't know.
In a GP draft.
This card is
top
insane.
8. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe the guy before him took Phoenix.
I mean, who? Maybe. I'm like, who passes this card? I suppose if you're not in those colors and there's something else better for the colors you mean, you pass it, but I don't think you like ever passing a card like this.
Yeah, I don't feel like this is a splash format at all. I would never splash for a card like this. Every deck is so linear and streamlined and hoping to do broken things, and a lot of the cards cost double colors, like especially like Wingsteed Rider, Asphyxiate, and I think they did that on purpose. But yeah, I would not splash for this card.
They did it on purpose, partly to control them, but partly because Devotion is in the set.
It's also
there's
true,
a reason the Grey Merchant is 3 black.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's because you're trying to build up your Devotion. So those were the top 5 cards in Montreal. There was also a GP in Buenos Aires for Standard. The first place was, and I know I'm going to mess this name up, Philippe Montevade.
Montauban.
Monlevade. There's an L there. Let's try that again. Philippe Monlevade, and he was playing Jund de Monsters. So the top 8 deck list was Jund de Monsters. There were 2 Mono Black Devotion, 3 Mono Blue Devotion, 1 Esper Control, and 1 Black-Red Control. I honestly like just the straight green-red monsters deck better than the Jund monsters. I know a lot of people are splashing the black, and Jund is certainly my favorite color pairings. And it does definitely bring the black brings a little something to the table. You have access to more removal in the form of like Dreadbore.
I honestly don't know. I'm torn. I've seen both decks play. I haven't played either of them personally, but they both have their advantages and disadvantages. I'm not sure which is better in the mirror. I'd assume Jund, but I don't know. They're both good. They're both top tier decks.
Yeah. The thing with the green-red monsters is I think it just wants to ramp and just dump.
Explode all over people.
Yeah, tons of creatures.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at, I have to go back and check the Jund monsters list, but I don't think he was running Garruk.
No Garruk.
Between the Corsair Krupix and Domri and Garruk, your card advantage in the green-red monsters is just absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
Beating through a Domri can be done. Beating through a Garruk is really difficult.
Garruk is very powerful.
He is. And these green-red decks can get him out very quickly.
Yeah.
And he's more of a threat than Domri is. Domri will get them some minor card advantage. Garruk gets them massive card advantage.
The difference is you'll always get to Domri.
Yeah.
You won't always get to Garruk. He costs a lot of mana.
He does, but he's a lot harder to kill. I mean, once you resolve him, trying to get him off the battlefield, because you can even abrupt decay Domri. And
That's
you
true.
usually attack him pretty well, but
I just look at it from a control player's point of view. Domri usually comes down early enough to be relevant.
Yeah.
And he usually comes down before counter magic, and a lot of games I'll verdict and like wipe out a bunch of the mana producers, and Garruk won't ever do anything, and I'll just Sphinx's Rev through my deck and kill them.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
By the time Garruk comes online, sometimes he's not enough.
So basically, or like a red-green monster against, say, like an Esper Control deck, they're either going to kill you before they're ready to play Garruk, or you're going to just control the board by then.
Yeah.
It's not going to do any good.
Yep.
Yeah, it's all a matter of speed against a deck like that.
Yes.
And actually, interesting, as I was trying to find the results for the Buenos Aires, I found an old Buenos Aires list from a few years ago that at first I thought was the recent one. But the interesting was they had pictures from it, and one of the pictures was a bunch of cards that a vendor had, and they were, sleeved up in the clear pages. And one of them was a Tarmogoyf, and 200 was written on top of them for a price. And the caption under the picture was, we sure hope that's pesos. And I looked at that and I said, no, not anymore.
No.
Oh, that's dollars now, sir.
$200.
Yeah, that's we'll get to that later. Right, and so for the Star City events, the Standard was won by Neil Hartman. He was playing Red White Burn.
Congratulations to Neil deGrasse Tyson for winning with Red White Burn.
And this field was not so varied. So Red White Burn won it. There was a Blue White Devotion deck, and everything else was something black. There was Black White Midrange, Black White Devotion, Black White Humans, 2 Mono Black Devotion, and a Mono Black Aggro.
And a Blue White Devotion.
And then the Blue White Devotion.
That seems like more than 8 decks. Nope, that's 8 decks. All right.
Yep, it's 8. I counted. Boy, black was really dominant.
Yeah, it's good time to be playing black cards. Like Thoughtseize, not bad. Kind of good.
Yep. Blood Baron is pretty insane, unless you're going up against the green-red monsters. Then
he's terrible. He's so bad.
Then he goes bye-bye, Blood Baron.
4/4. Red White Burn. Ugh. Ugh, my heart is breaking.
Oh, I don't know. It's not that bad. It'll win sometimes. Those decks are just not exciting.
They're really not.
They just do your thing. Yay, I won because...
This one was a little less burn. It played Boros Reckoners and actual creatures and stuff, but
Yeah.
Just burn decks make me cry.
Even the burn decks in Standard aren't straight up burn like a Legacy burn deck would be.
Yeah, point and click.
Yeah, where you're just like slinging spells at their head until your hand is empty. So I mean, they rely a little bit more on creatures, but they're still. I mean, they're very aggressive. They'll win through tempo because they out tempo you. They increase the tempo of the game to the point where you just can't stabilize against them. I think it's actually probably a pretty good deck against the mono black because you're hurting yourself a little bit with your thought seizes, and they get so many guys online so fast. Like if you don't have Drowning Sorrow on your sideboard,
if they don't see Gary, they're just straight dead, right? Like there's nothing they can do. I'm pretty sure they just die.
It depends on the draws. I mean, Charmless Phoenix is a problem.
Yeah.
You have Bioblight now, which helps out a lot because they tend to crap out a lot of multiples of the same creature. Mm-hmm. So, Bioblight is amazing against Boros Reckoner. You're dead. Oh, sorry. Did you have a Boros Charm in your hand? Oh, well. You guys still dead.
Yep.
So, I mean, that definitely helps against them. But I've played against, like, aggro red decks, and they're tricky. All right, the Legacy list for the Star City Games. Greg Mitchell won playing Bug Delver. And this list made me really happy. The top 8 decks.
Thopter Blade.
Bug Delver.
Yes.
Death and Taxes. Jund. Thopter Blade.
Yes.
Black-White Deathblade. Elves. Blue-White Miracles. And Sneak and Show.
Sneal and Show.
Sneal and Show. That's a misprint. That's actually Sneak and Show.
Okay.
The Moops did not invade.
Thank you for that Seinfeld reference that no one will get.
They'll get it. Listen, our listeners are the best and the brightest. They will get the Seinfeld reference. Don't think that they won't. Seeing a top 8 deck list like this that's so diverse makes me super happy.
You know what I love about this? How many True Name Nemesis are in this?
Bug Delver?
No, none.
Oh, really?
None of these decks play it.
I thought Bug Delver doesn't run True Names?
Nope.
Yeah, that makes me even
That's
happier.
pretty cool. Yeah.
I like, of all of these decks, I still don't like Sneak and Show a whole lot. I think that Show and Tell is a card that probably should be banned in Legacy at this point.
I've been saying it should be banned for 2 years now.
Yeah,
even when it's not broken, it should still be banned. It's so stupid. I mean,
the things you can do with it now. Well, I mean, obviously with Emrakul and Griselbrand on turn
Yawgmoth's
1,
Bargain is banned in this format, and you get to put Griselbrand into play. It's
turn 1.
How unreal is that?
Potentially, realistically, on turn 1, you only need 3 cards to pull it off.
Ancient Tomb, Lotus Petal, Show and Tell thing.
Yeah, and then your thing. So 4 cards because you need the thing to put into play, or you drop Omniscience even in the Omnitel decks.
But it happens. It's not like this elaborate 4-card combo.
No,
it just comes together. Sometimes
you could easily mulligan down to it. And, unless you're playing someone who's playing blue that happens to have Force of Will or Daze or something like that to deal with what you're doing. If you're playing any, quote unquote fair deck, it's backbreaking. You can beat them. I've beat Show and Tell with my Jund deck, so it can definitely be done.
Yeah, it's not like this unwinnable deck that's destroying the format. It's just really Show and Tell just fits the mold of cards they ban. It just does. It completely cheats mana costs. And Wizards has shown time and again that cards that affect 2 people and both let players do things equally are never equal.
Oh yeah, of course not. Because
the Eureka effects, Dream Halls.
Yeah, because your deck is designed to take advantage of this, and your opponent's isn't.
Yeah. I'll put an Emrakul into play, and my opponent will put a bear.
A bear. Yeah.
Bear.
And unfortunately, the way it's worded, you can't put a Planeswalker into play, which makes me very sad. Because I would be happy if someone did Show and Tell and I could plop a Lily into play.
Or a Nicol Bolas, that'd be sweet.
Or a Nicol Bolas, and then I go to my turn and I just make them sacrifice the thing.
Yeah.
Or take control of it with Nicol Bolas.
Whee!
So clearly, even though it looks like it's giving your opponent an advantage because it does something for both players, it really doesn't give them the kind of advantage that you're getting out of it.
It's too cheap. 3 mana is very easy to get to.
Yes.
It's dumb.
I still feel like it's one of the decks
blue.
I really don't like. Not a big fan.
Why is it blue? Because it was in Urza's block.
Yeah, they didn't understand the color pie back then.
Tinker's fair.
They really did not understand the color pie back then. Took them a while.
It's sweet that the format is that diverse, and the fact that Thopter Blade.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that makes me so happy.
It really does. It really does. And these are all great. Like, aside from show and tell, and I'm not a big fan of combo elves, but it's whatever. It's a deck.
I actually like playing against it.
Yeah.
I think it's really fun to break up the combo, and you really have to know what you're doing.
But none of these other decks are super degenerate or make me unhappy to see him. And you don't sit across from a Death and Taxes player or a Black-White Death player and get, oh man, look at this guy. What a dope. You know, like a Cheerios player.
Hey, I've lost to a lot of him to Taurox in my day.
Yeah. Char Belcher.
Oh man, I hate losing to... I'd rather lose to that than to him to Taurox.
Really?
Him to Taurox is so frustrating to play against.
It's a brutal card.
I hate it.
What do you think about the art on the From the Vault 20?
I like it better than the old ones.
Do you?
Yeah, I just hate the From the Vault foiling. Otherwise, yeah. I'd probably play it.
That's the Magic the Gathering Online art.
Yeah. I use the, Fat Gandalf one.
That's the one I have the wizard on. I've got to play
yeah.
The Quentin Hoover art.
Yes.
Yeah, because I think it's the best of all of them. It's
yeah, really I like
nice
it.
But speaking about Moto, Magic the Gathering Online, Wizards put up an announcement this week that they're making some changes to the PTQ and MOX schedules. And obviously these PTQs are the qualifiers you can play where you can actually qualify for a Pro Tour by playing online.
Stands for Pro Tour Qualifier.
Yep. And then the MOX, MOCS, it's a bit of an alliterative pun there, is the Magic Online Championship Series. And what they're doing is they're putting the PTQs on hiatus and they're pushing back the MOX program basically to make sure the program is stable when they go to run these events.
Yeah, basically what they're saying is our product is terrible, and we know it now.
Yeah.
And instead of giving you some shitty product, we're actually going to try to fix it and then give it to you.
Yeah, I mean, high fives for them for actually addressing the issue before they try to run a bad event and leave a lot of people with bad taste in their mouths as they go undefeated and then the program crashes and then they get kicked out of the top 8 and throw a hissy fit.
Magic Online is insanely popular because it's Magic, and they need to realize that that's the only reason people play it, is because people love Magic, but everyone hates Magic Online. It's so terrible. The crashes, all the bugs.
Oh, the crashes. Like, when I do drafts, I can't even draft in the beta client, the open beta.
This game is amazing.
Completely
and
unstable.
People just keep giving Wizards money to play this bad product because they think, well, that's the best we're going to get, and I just want to play Magic.
Yeah, Wizards really needs to support Magic the Gathering Online as much as they support the paper game.
Yeah.
And I just don't think they have for
I'm just happy changes are happening. Like, this is sweet.
Yeah. No, they definitely seem to be addressing things, and that's nice to see.
Thanks, Brian Kibler. Ding.
Yay. Ding. So the next big story, next big story, so to speak, that came out of Richmond is the event that keeps on giving.
Butt cheeks.
There was an incident with a fine young gentleman who went around the event posing by Plumber's cracks. Mike is losing it here.
A hero of the modern man.
Oh, but is he? Is he really a hero?
I think he is.
So this was an interesting situation. So we went around the event. He took a bunch of photos, posing by people who were sitting in chairs and their butt cracks were showing. And he posted all those photos on Imager. And not only were these widely disseminated through the Magic community, they were widely disseminated through the internet, so that people who didn't even know the game were finding the story and spreading it around and pointing and laughing, figuratively speaking.
It was too good. He made it. It was just whatever he did. It was too good, and it just exploded. And it was cool when it was a little thing and it was contained within the Magic community, because I thought it was hilarious. Like, I just died. The picture of him where it's a close-up on his face and he has the tear in his eye, I just cannot handle that picture. But it got too big. And now people who aren't involved in Magic are talking about it. And they're basically laughing at the community instead of laughing along with it, which is a problem. Like, there's some already bad stereotypes toward Magic players. Some of them are true. But it doesn't speak for the whole community, and this is another one of those things. Like, I've seen a lot of reports from people who actually played in the event, and they're like, well, I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
I didn't see it, but it does happen, and I'm sure it happens at, every type of card game. obviously going to happen at poker.
It happens anytime someone with ill-fitting pants sits down in a chair.
Yeah.
You could see it at a restaurant or at a bus station.
Yeah, I wouldn't be happy with it at a restaurant either. Yeah. Like, it's not acceptable. Like, it's not something you do in a public setting. Like, fix it. Do something about it.
I mean, there's two sides. I mean, there is that. That's definitely something that people should be addressing. But I think the way he went about this was really wrong. And there's I know he didn't show faces, but there's something about the whole act of what he did really just rubbed me the wrong way. It kind of bothered me.
It's kind of messed up. You're just taking pictures of random people and posting it on the internet. But
I mean, you're pushing privacy boundaries legally. I think I don't think he crossed any to where he. I don't think he did. Prosecuted,
I think they actually talked about that, and he didn't do anything illegal.
Yeah, but it still felt really inappropriate. And I mean, there's a lot of stereotypes he's reinforcing that way, and
it is in a way public shaming.
Like, yeah, it is public shaming, and I mean, not everybody that he took a picture of was overweight. There were some people that looked like they were fairly normal.
Dude's fat himself. Like
yeah. But it really was like it's quote unquote a fat shaming thing because it's a stereotype that's associated with people that are overweight. Because it tends to happen more there, but it could happen to anybody. And I would like to point out, percentage wise, that out of an event of 4,300 people, he only got 16 photos. So that's a fairly low percentage of butt cracks that we're hanging out.
But it is something we see at most tournaments. I do at least.
We see it at the temple.
Yeah.
There's one in particular that's
what's up, buddy?
Always there. Our friend the pedo bear.
Hey, buddy.
And we joke about it with him. But that's a very different situation because he's cool with joking about it. And he knows us, and he's
honestly,
like, "Hey, I'm a big guy, and my butt hangs out." Sometimes.
Actually, now that you say that, like if I saw some guy who came into Temple and started posting pictures of us, I'd be pissed. Like when you put it that way, I'd be a little more upset. Like still be funny, but
it's a different perspective, isn't it? When you're the one on the other end of that camera lens.
Yeah, like me personally, whatever. My bad on me, but when they're taking pictures of like people I know, and they're making fun of them, yeah. But,
and plus, I mean, we do easily tend to fall into stereotypes a lot of the time. I mean, I know I do this sometimes. You have these stereotypes that you build up in your own mind. You try to not feed into them, but you do. And one big one for me is confession time. Is the people on the little mini scooters in the Walmart. It's like in the back of my brain, something is screaming, just get off your ass and walk around the store. And I realized some of these people, a lot of them, maybe all of them, need the little cart to get around because their knees are bad or whatever. And I'm not talking about like really elderly people. I'm talking about people in the middle age. And it's a stereotype that I try and control my own thoughts. I would never do anything about it, but you have these things that come up in your head sometimes because they've been ingrained into you over the years.
I worked at a supermarket for a while, and some of the people on the scooters, I was like, you don't need that.
Yeah.
And they'd like tell me to like grab stuff off shelves. I'm like, you can stand up. I've seen you do it before. So
it's, you're trying to speak to it, but sometimes I see like these big people at Magic tournaments that I don't know, and you start having stereotypes in your head. But there's like
some
there's
people need
at our shop that you get to know them really well, and they're not the fat guy anymore. I mean, there's several really big guys that come to play at our shop, and I don't think of them as the fat guy at the Temple Games. I think of them by name, and that's who they are. That's who they person. So when you get to know somebody personally, you break through those kinds of stereotypes.
Yeah,
and it becomes different. Anyway, the fallout from this, Wizards released a statement. I will try and include a link to their statement in the show notes for this as well. Basically, they had a very general statement about how there was inappropriate behavior and that the DCI made a recommendation. They approved of the recommendation. Action was taken, and the long and the short of it, the guy is banned for 18 months from playing.
Wizards drew the line. They made the first move that anything like this, you're done.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, I don't think, I think the banning was a little harsh. I guess they gave him an ultimatum to take it down from the site, and he just said no.
Really?
Or he just didn't do it. I don't know how they actually would do that, but that could just be a rumor. but
that might be a rumor.
But I don't think he would have taken it down anyway. It was so popular.
And I don't think there would be any point. I mean, once you put something like that on the internet, it's on
damage
the
is
internet.
done, and that stops all future stuff because it sets a precedent that you're not going to get away with it.
Yeah,
and they're going to be pissed.
Yep, I'm glad they took action. They did it reasonably quickly. That was
really quick.
Friday,
considering.
Yeah, so the pictures went up like on Monday or Tuesday, and I know they went up before we recorded our last podcast. So they went up like Monday or Tuesday, late Monday or early Tuesday, and they had the banning done by Friday. So it was pretty quick. They made a decision and they went with it. And I think good on Wizards for saying, hey, this just isn't cool.
It was funny, but it was the consequences. That's what happens. You can't...
You can't just...
I hope it was worth it. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, he's a rapper, so it gets some little street cred, I guess.
What?
Taking pictures. He's a rapper.
What? All right, all respect is gone. All right, that was horrible. You're an asshole.
Wow. Stereotype.
No, he was just taking pictures.
All right, now we're going to move on to our Deck of the Week. So this week, I think we're not actually going to do a single deck. We're going to talk about a group of decks because they've been so prominent, and in the Star City Standard event, they were achingly prominent, and that is the mono black or black centered decks that are out right now. And these were specifically would be mono black, black white, and maybe black red. So what makes black what it is in Standard right now? Why is this such a dominant archetype?
Thoughtseize.
Thoughtseize is a big part of it. It's a very powerful spell. Why is it more than just one for oneing? I mean, you're basically discarding a card to make your opponent discard a card. How is that really good?
Well, one, it's more than that. It's information, which is a huge thing because it sets up the rest of your game. And information's really underrated in the game of Magic. People don't treat it as highly as they should have. I still see people Thoughtseize and not write down the cards they see, which bothers the hell out of me. But when you know your opponent doesn't have that removal spell, you can jam Pack Rat. If you can take their removal spell and jam Pack Rat, just kill them. But if you have that fear in your head, you can't just do that. You can't just run the Pack Rat out because they might have the removal spell. They might kill it and your game plan might just fall to pieces.
Yeah.
You might have to wait till turn 5. By then it might be too late. But you can sculpt your entire game plan knowing exactly what they have in their hand. And that's a huge advantage. You also get to steal a card from their hand. You get to disrupt their game plan. You can break up their curve. You can take their counterspell to resolve a threat. You can take their Fanatic Amogus that would devotion you for 7 damage or something. It just... You break up what they're trying to do. It punishes mulligans so badly.
Yes.
Oh, God.
That's absolutely true.
And in a way, it kind of invalidates strategies. If you know you're going to get Thoughtseize turn 1 every game. Why isn't combo just this, like, rampant force in Modern? Like, even more so than it could be.
Oh,
1,
right.
Because of bannings. 2, because of Thoughtseize.
Yep.
Like, even decks aren't even always running at main deck. Even just outside of Pod's game plan against combo decks is Thoughtseize you. That's it. And just hope to mid-range or combo you out. That says a lot about the spell. That's really powerful.
Another key piece in the mono black decks is Pack Rats.
Limited all-star.
I don't think I ever lost a limited game where I turned 2 Pack Rat.
I have. I felt like an idiot. I was so embarrassed, yeah. I lost to, like, Centaurs or something, no. Like, he just like, populated more than I did. I was just really upset. But, the card's so stupid. It's just... I hate that the copy retains the ability to make more Pack Rats.
It makes an exact copy of itself, yeah.
Sweet design. Really cool. Like, when you think about it, it's like, oh, yeah, just multiplying. But Mutavault pushes it over the top. Mutavault allows it to do things to, like, mess with combat, just being 1 mana, pump all of your rats. It's just... It feels a little too good at sometimes, but all these things add up together with Thoughtseize and Mutavault, and they just make a shell for a black deck that's just very powerful and very consistent.
Yeah. I think Mutavault is what makes Pack Rat firmly playable in Standard. I think without Mutavault, it would be maybe fringe playable, but not super exciting, but having Mutavault in there just kind of locks it in. And it's especially great later in the game when you're sitting with those dead lands in your hand that you would just be playing out, and now they're more rats. It turns dead draws into live draws, just being able to discard them to the rat.
And you also have a card advantage engine in Underworld Connections.
Yep.
So you're filtering through your deck, finding what you actually need, and discarding the garbage.
Yep. And the discard to the rat gets you creatures into play that counterspells can't deal with, because you can't counterspell the ability, and there's no stifle effects right now. So
we're also in a very 1-for-1 type of format. Like, outside of Supreme Verdict and Detention Sphere, most people are trying to attack you with 1-for-1 type spells: Dreadbore, Hero's Downfall,
right.
Ultimate Price, and Pack Rat just laughs at all of them.
Yeah.
And if you don't kill the Pack Rat right away, it just gets out of control, and that's really insane for a 2-drop.
It really is.
Because you lose the option to get rid of it later, which I don't like. And I don't hate it. It's something you just have to deal with sometimes in Standard. I may not love it, but it's cool. It's cool that a card like that got to see Standard play, because that was a joke. Like, the first time I saw it in the top 8 of the Pro Tour, there were 2 copies. I was like, why is he playing Pack Rat? Like, what is going on? It was almost as ridiculous as that Scred deck you showed me today that you thought top 8 of the Standard GP.
Just for the record, that was not a recent GP that top 8'd. But it was Green-Red Snow, and it was pretty hilarious.
Yeah, he showed me a top 8 deck list from 2 years ago, or whatever, however long ago it was.
Yeah,
it was old extended, yeah.
There was some interesting.
He's like, Scred's back! This is the best Modern tournament ever.
I love that card. So another big one in the Mono Black Devotions is Desecration Demon, Puppy D, who is a 6/6 for 4, whose downside...
This card I don't think is cool.
Almost never matters.
How is this card playable? Where are we in the world of Magic?
It's a 6/6 flyer for 4.
It is.
It's bigger than all of Green-Red's monsters.
It is.
I mean, they've got to hope to land an Arbor Colossus and monstrous it before you beat them to death with your demon.
It's worse now than I think it was. I think it's a lot worse with Born of the Gods out. Just the way the meta shaped up. It was good before, which is mind-blowing to me. But sometimes the meta just falls in the right place for a card. And if people find it, it's very good, which is cool. But this is not a card I'll ever be excited to see across the table from me. I don't think I'll ever lose to it in my life, but just because of the type of decks I play. So I'm probably underrating it, but I don't know. It just doesn't feel powerful enough. Which is weird saying for a 4-mana 6/6 with flying, but...
Yeah, it feels pretty powerful to me when I played it.
Yeah, Mutavault does dampen it a little bit, because a lot of games you just stand up a Mutavault for 1 mana and attack through.
Sure. I have to say that I don't run strictly mono black. I run mostly mono black, and I splash just a little bit of white so I can run the Blood Barons.
Which is a card I love, which is very different than Desecration
I actually
Demon.
Found myself boarding the Blood Barons in so much I just main deck them over the demons.
Yeah.
And then I bring the demon in when I have a matchup that he's better in. Because in general, the Blood Baron is just better in most situations.
I'm not sure where he's actually good right now.
Who?
The demon.
He's okay against the green-red monsters, because he's big.
They're not really flooding the board right now. They're not really playing Burning Emissary type decks. I don't know. Yeah. He gets tapped down by Eldritch Mystic.
And even that, I can run out a demon, untap, Bioblight the Mystics before we even get to the combat phase, so he doesn't have anything to sacrifice to it.
I think his strongest asset is just as a finisher when you've gone to parity and you're just drawing off Underworld Connections, because he kills so quickly.
And of course, another key card, Underworld Connections. Card advantage is good.
Another card that is not traditionally a good card, but is very powerful in the meta because of the pieces that are along with it. I think that is cool, how Wizards sets up these formats and we find all these pieces and put them together. Because Underworld Connections was a fringe playable card. In the last Standard, Jund played it out of the board sometimes, maybe 2 copies, to fight the control decks. But on the surface, it's just a worse Phyrexian Arena. You're paying a mana, it's slower. Yeah, it's just a product of the environment.
Getting card advantage in mono black is not Well, it's not unprecedented, but it's not always easy.
They did print Necropotence.
They did print Necropotence. Oh, by the way, I was listening to Rosewater's Drive to work.
Okay.
And you know how Necropotence got reprinted in 5th edition?
Yeah, and saw like no play for some reason.
Yeah. It was not Design's decision to put it in, it was Development's decision to put it in. So they made the set, and it went to development, and they said, we'd like to have Necropotence in.
Why?
I don't know. He didn't know. He was like, I think they just really liked it.
Yeah.
So it was crazy.
For those at home who don't know what Necropotence does, it says 3 mana, it's 3 black mana symbols, skip your draw step, win the game. That's the actual text on Necropotence.
It was Gristlebrand before Gristlebrand was cool.
It was, yeah.
Another card, well actually there's a pair of cards that fit to the mono black deck next. That would be Nightveil Spectre and Lifebane Zombie.
Lifebane Zombie is sweet.
That
card is so good right now.
The earlier mono black devotion decks were running 4 Nightveil Spectres. I have actually gone to a 2-2 split in the main, because there's enough people out there playing green-red monsters right now. You can occasionally just mise a Blood Baron out of him, and the Intimidate is relevant.
I think I need to just change my opinion of what a good card is, because Nightveil Spectre is also a bad card that's a product of its environment. It's a Chapelgeist that sometimes steals a card from your opponent, and you can sometimes cast it.
I think the biggest thing with him is it's the card advantage that you're getting. Because
I think it was just the fact that
lands off of him.
Yeah.
You can cast cards if you're in the right colors of mana.
If we had...
I mean, do I need to remind you of the game where I had 2 Nightveil Spectres out, and you were playing Mono Blue Devotion? I took your Masters of Waves, and I had a Nykthos ready.
Yeah, alright. I think the lesson is don't play Mono Blue if you're me. I just could not win with that deck.
Just don't play Mono Blue.
But, yeah. He dodged, like, all the removal before, and he was very powerful because nothing killed him, and he was 3 colored mana symbols, and that was great. He fit the curve, he was 3 mana, and turned on Devotion, he did all these wonderful things, but now he's just not as good. The people have adapted. Last Breath kills him. Like, Last Breath wasn't even a known entity before Blue-White exploded, and Alexander Hayne won the GP. And Bioblight kills him. And he was just awkwardly hard to kill before, and now the tools are there, and he's gotten worse, but Mono Black has adapted and is starting to play Lifebane Zombie, which I think is fantastic in this metagame. I really do. It's good against the fringe decks, the random like blue, white-green decks you'll play, because it's insane there. It's good against the monster decks, because you can just mise, steal Pelucranos or something. And it's good.
And plus, he can swing in on them without them being able to block.
True.
The Intimidate is highly relevant. He's got more power. I mean, He's getting 3 points in. And he's slightly easier to cast because he's only 2 colored mana symbols.
Yes, you can cast him off Mutavault. I hated in Mono Blue the fact that I could not cast Nightveil Spectre on curve if I had a Mutavault. Oh, it was so frustrating. I hated it so much.
I get frustrated with that with Mono Black, too.
Yeah. And against the Blue-White X control decks, he's a card that dodges Elspeth when they minus.
Yep.
And he dodges Last Breath.
Yep.
So he's powerful there. People were bringing him in already. And now people bring in Blood Baron if they don't play him in 2 in the main deck.
Yeah.
The people who board in like 3 or 4 of them, he just hits Blood Baron. Effective there. And then the black-white decks, he can just steal Blood Barons, which is just incredible.
Yep. And the other permanent that rounds out the Black Devotion package, one of my all-time favorites, Gary Merchant.
Good old Gary.
Good old Gary.
Peddling his wares.
I hate the art on that card.
It's so funny.
It's awful. It's ugly. It doesn't make any sense when you look at it. It's just this weird...
It's Trunk Steak Guy. That's what he's doing.
Oh, it is. It's Trunk Steak Guy.
He's swooping in and selling you his steaks.
He posed.
Yeah, it's Gary.
For the artist.
Oh, that makes so much more sense. You can't see his like beat to shit Cadillac off the side. That's what's missing in the photo.
I would buy steaks off of that zombie dude before I would buy steaks off Trunk Steak.
That's what he does. Yeah, it's fantastic.
But clearly, just resolving Gary and winning games.
From the Devotion. He was a sleeper. Yeah. When he got spoiled, people were not excited about that card. I think because so many people have been tricked by Mono Black being a real deck in the past, everyone's like, Mono Black's back, and it's just always been terrible.
Yeah.
It's finally real, and we're sick of it. But Gary is a cool card. He's a finisher, and he stabilizes you. He does a lot of good work.
Great. I mean, against like the real like red aggro decks, he gains you life, and then he's a great blocker.
Yeah, he blanks opposing Mutabolts, which is sweet. Yep. He drains them, then blanks Mutabolts. Good man, Gary.
He can just sit there and block a Burrow's Reckoner. I mean, he's going to die with the damage coming back to him, but still.
Yeah.
It's pretty solid.
And then you can sack him to tap your opponent's Desecration Demon and kill them.
That you can do. And the other part of the black decks, of course, is the vast suite of removal that they have. Mm-hmm. Black actually has a really good removal package right now between Vile Blights, Ultimate Price, Doomblade, Thoughtseize, Devour Flesh.
Yep. Fallen out favorite, but still good.
Yep. Drown in Sorrow. There's very little you can't deal with. I am a little frustrated that Mutilate was in the format for a brief period of time, and then as soon as there was a deck where it would be outstanding in, it rotated out.
Yeah.
And
probably for good reason. Do you want Mono Black to be better?
Yes.
Do you want Damnation?
Yes.
Is that what you want?
Okay. I do. I want Damnation.
If they reprint Damnations, blame Dan. Send all the hate mail to Dan.
Mutilate in Standard right now would actually be better than Damnation.
Yeah?
Minus kills things that Destroy doesn't. You would kill gods with it.
That is true. But Damnation would turn the gods off, and Damnation kills Desecration Demon. If you tried to Mutilate on turn 4, it wouldn't kill it.
Yeah, but
see?
You wouldn't do it on turn 4.
I'm making Desecration Demon look better.
But I've already killed Desecration Demon last turn price.
Fair enough.
So the other black deck that's out there right now is not the Black Devotion deck, but the Black Aggro deck.
Yeah.
What is this thing? I know Tormented Hero's in it.
Oh my! Speaking of terrible art, Tormented Hero.
Oh yeah.
The sexy Jamaican just ripping his clothes off for no reason. Like, what is going on in this art?
I'm coming to get you.
How is he tormented? Was it by his clothes? Does he feel restricted?
I don't know. Maybe they're not Versace.
Maybe not. And Abercrombie didn't want him as a model.
That's what it is.
It's probably what it is.
He wanted to model for Abercrombie, but they told him he was 5 pounds too heavy, and they don't want fat people selling their clothes.
It's true.
It is. So what else is in this deck besides Tormented Hero and I'm sure the standard set of removal spells? I don't remember what this thing plays.
Oh, Herald of Torment, which is top 3 cards
in
the set for me, looking at spoilers.
That is a card that I actually kind of have my eye on.
As Wizards tries to make black playable in Cube, they give us Herald of Torment.
I really like Herald of Torment.
I think that card's so sweet. Like, oh my god, it's...
I'm wondering if it's going to find a home in Standard somewhere, besides the Mono Black Aggro decks. I don't know. Which, I don't like the Mono Black Aggro decks.
I do.
Do you?
I wouldn't be surprised if it never saw play, but it's there, the power level.
Okay, so the Mono Black Aggro deck, as we've talked about, has Tormented Hero and Herald of Torment, which again I really like, and then the Rakdos Cacklers. And it does run Pack Rats, Lifebane Zombies, Mogus's Marauder, which seems to be really good in this deck.
I like that card.
Yep. And Painseers, which I guess... Okay, so I have mixed feelings about Painseer.
All of them
Too
bad.
many people are going, oh wow, they've done Bob again, and it's no.
Functional reprint of Bob was my favorite.
Who said that?
Someone on MTG Salvation was just like, functional reprint of Bob, I'm buying all of them. I was like, you're a fucking idiot.
Well, if you use the term functional as if you were describing, the Kennedys as being a functional family, then it's a functional reprint.
He was like, sell your Bobs and buy Painseers because it's just better for Modern. I'm like, what are you talking about? Did you read the card?
Yeah, no. I would play that the Hellbent Arena guy that.
Oh, the Blood Scrivener?
I would play Blood Scrivener over Painseer.
Sitting on his throne, yeah.
Who loses you 1 life and you draw a card when your hand is empty. That I could actually see trying to play.
Yeah, still not good. This card is fine. I don't know. I have not been impressed by it at all.
I'm not impressed by it.
If there is a shell where this card is ever good, this is it. It may work in this deck, Mogus Marauder kind of gives it a little bit of little play because it's going to get through and be able to tap.
3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I suppose you turn to him, even though I'd much rather be turned to... Yeah, but do you really want to do that? I mean, see, this deck looks a little confused to me, because you have Herald of Torment and Rakdos Cackler at 1 mana, and you also have Thoughtseize at 1 mana. What would you rather be doing on turn 1? Thoughtseizing or playing a Herald of Torment?
Yeah, but I think this deck more wants to Thoughtseize on, like, the turn before they Supreme Verdict them. I don't think they care about casting Thoughtseize on turn 1.
So you're going to turn 1 Herald, turn 2 Painseer, turn 3 Mogus's Marauders, untap,
Thoughtseize them away.
Card.
Because if you Thoughtseize their Supreme Verdict, they just die. Like, what are they going to do then? Detention Sphere one thing and explode.
Yeah, that's true. Anyway, so a bunch of aggressive creatures, and then a much smaller package of removal than the Devotion deck.
Still 8 removal spells. That's still pretty hefty.
So that's the mono black aggro. Mono black is a thing, either the aggro or the Devotion, but people have been adding colors to it. White, sometimes red. What does white bring to the party that black doesn't have on its own?
Blood Baron of Viscopa with his sweet, sweet art. Ridiculous art. Why do they... It's so stupid. But
yeah, that's why, I mean, I made the decision to go with Blood Baron, just because there were a lot of people playing mono black at the shop, and Blood Baron is just stupidly good in the mirror.
Yeah, Elspeth is wildly powerful too. Usually
Elspeth
play 2 of them.
A little harder to cast. I know there's someone in the shop who's playing more of a black-white mid-range kind of deck than mine is. Mine is really Black Devotion with just a splash for white. Mm-hmm. I just run 4 and 4 of the dual lands, the Scry lands and the Shock lands, just to get Blood Barons out, basically.
I think it's a good deck.
He also runs the Guild Gates because he runs Elspeth out.
Well,
Elspeth's pretty powerful.
This will force people to have to play Devour Flesh again, like in mono black, so they don't just straight die to Blood Baron.
Yeah.
And the format will just ring around that. People having to play Devour Flesh, and once Devour Flesh comes back, they move away from Blood Baron, and Devour Flesh becomes bad again. And it's just keeping up with the metagame, basically. Realizing when the Blood Baron deck will be better.
Yeah.
And right now, the trend has started. Devour Flesh, you see creeping back in again. And I'm actually not sure which one's better. I'd probably play the White Splash at the moment if I had to choose a deck.
So the other thing I was running in my sideboard was Glare of Heresy. It hits Detention Spheres.
It does.
It actually hits Chain to the Rocks, and it hits Elspeth.
Yeah, all relevant cards.
Yep.
And it hits Breemaz.
It actually hits Breemaz.
If anyone actually played Breemaz, it probably would hit it.
Yeah. I've seen somebody run Breemaz. The reason I wanted to bring that in is because the Esper control, the white-blue based control decks, basically, it was my experience, they answer everything that black is doing, and black can't answer anything that they were doing. And it just felt better to be able to have a card in there that answered a large number of things that they were trying to do.
I like it as a one-of and just Mize. I think it's good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other splash in the black decks is red.
Yeah.
What does red bring? The red brings removal to the party, basically, in the form of Dreadbore, primarily.
It brings nothing to the party. That's what it does. You get Dreadbore, which is what you're doing already, but at sorcery speed, like it's cheaper than Hero's Downfall, but you already have Hero's Downfall.
You also get Rakdos' Return.
Which is the real reason for doing it, but I think...
But then you gotta run, if you're running the deck with the Rakdos' Returns, I think you have to run Nykthos to get the value out of them, which I don't want to do.
Yeah, no. Yeah. I would not want to do that, but I don't know. Generally, just a sideboard of Duresses is where you want to be against the control decks. Like, sure, Rakdos' Return is flashy and you can get blowouts sometimes, but if they see that you're playing black-red, they're not just going to die to it. They're going to bring in negates and stuff and be ready for it.
Pro tip, if you're playing against green-white, do not Rakdos' Return them. Because they will put 3 Loxodon Smiters into play.
Well, to be fair, sometimes I've seen people not. I've seen a few Loxodon Smiters hit the grave.
My opponent. He was totally sandbagging them. knowing that I played Rakdos' Return. This one game.
I'm just saying, I've seen a Rakdos' Return hit a hand, and I've seen a couple Smiters hit the bin.
Oh, it's so bad. That person does not deserve to be playing that card. I don't know, is there anything else to say about Black and Standard right now?
It's still good. It's not dead. I don't know why people thought it was, but yeah.
No, it's by no means dead. It's gonna... Who knows what Journey to Next is gonna bring. But I think Black is gonna stay Tier 1 or close to Tier 1 as long as Theros is in Standard.
I agree.
Or at least until Ravnica rotation.
Yeah.
So until the fall, I think Black Devotion will be there. The heavy black decks will be a thing. And then Ravnica rotates. We lose Packrat. We lose Demon.
Sphinx's Rev. Underworld Connections.
We lose. So then if Black Devotion is still a thing, then its face changes dramatically.
Yeah. We'll see. Oh, you lose Night Veil Spectre too. We're going to be
Night Veil Spectre.
M15 is going to be happening.
You lose Lifebane Zombie.
Probably. I don't think they're going to reprint that cycle again.
No, I doubt it.
Yeah, I'd be surprised.
Yeah, so you're going to lose a lot. So, but you still keep some powerful tools.
Hero's
Downfall.
You lose Mutavault, which
that's big.
It's kind of the glue that holds all these decks together because it lets you be aggressive when your deck.
Are all
just
the
does
mono
nothing.
decks? You think Mono Blue's probably gonna?
I hope so.
You lose Frostburn Weird. You lose Judge's Familiar. You lose.
I think we'll get passable replacements for those in some way. At least the Frostburn Weird and everything.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's something big I'm missing that's rotating. As weird as it is, Rapid Hybridization rotating kind of hurts the deck.
Because that kills demons.
It does. It kills Stormbreath Dragons and Master Waves in the mirror. I don't know. We'll see what tools the future has to bring. But
yeah.
Mono Black might stand the test of time. We'll see.
It'll be here till the fall, and then we'll see what happens. I mean, the removal package you have is still good. You're still going to have Bioblight. You're still going to have Hero's Downfall. You probably will have Doomblade. That's very, very frequently in the core sets.
Yeah, they'll probably give you Doomblade.
You're going to lose Ultimate Price, but that's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
That's not an exciting removal card. But you keep the Hero's Downfall and the Bioblights and the Drown in Sorrow. So that's all really good. That's a good removal package to have. And Thoughtseize.
Give us Lightning Bolt back.
Fix Red. Please. I would love... Then we could maybe really have Jund in Standard. Hey. That would be awesome.
And Mana Leak. Give us Mana Leak.
And Mana Leak. I would... If I have Thoughtseize, you're welcome to have your Mana Leak. I'm totally cool with that.
I'm fine with that.
Absolutely cool. It's totally fair.
Mid-range would be dead and I'd be king.
Because then I will turn one Thoughtseize your Mana Leak and win anyway.
Yeah, pretty much.
Now we are going deep. Now, last week we talked about preparation for playing in large events. And one thing that we completely overlooked was shuffling. We didn't mention shuffling at all for playing at a large event. So we're going to see just how deep we can go talking about shuffling now. Oh, you hear that sound? Give him a riffle.
No, not with this deck.
Alright, here we go. We got to give him a riffle.
Would you riffle this deck?
Probably not.
It's a lot of beans.
Shuffling.
What was that? Just destroyed your Serum Visions.
Yeah.
Those are worth money now.
They are?
Yeah.
How much?
Like $4 each.
Really?
Yeah. Thanks, Modern. So that was a nice sound of shuffling.
That was a nice sound of shuffling. So shuffling. What is it and why do we do it? First of all, a little bit of background on shuffling. I actually Wikipedia'd this.
Yep.
Mathematician and magician
John C. Reilly.
Percy Deconis began studying the question about shuffling, about how much shuffling you need to do for something to be really well shuffled, around 1970. And has authored many papers in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s on the subject with numerous co-authors. The most famous one was co-authored with mathematician Dave Bayer.
Why do I know that name?
Bayer Aspirin.
No.
I don't know.
Was that like a name referenced in Good Will Hunting or something?
It could
Probably.
Be. Which analyzed the Gilbert Shannon Reed's model of random riffle shuffling and concluded that the deck did not start to become random until 5 good riffle shuffles and was truly random after 7. So that's the number. Mm-hmm. You have to shuffle your deck 7 times before you can really consider it to be properly randomized. The DCI rules on card shuffling. How about this? This is what you have to do at a tournament.
Okay.
Decks must be randomized at the start of every game whenever an instruction requires it. So, like search for land, shuffle your library. Randomization is defined as bringing the deck to a state where no player can have any information regarding the order or position of cards in any portion of the deck. We're going to come back to this next statement. Pile shuffling alone is not sufficiently random.
Yeah, it's because people don't understand what the definition of random is. I see it all the time. It's so frustrating.
Definitely going to dig into that one. More rules first, though.
Ooh, rules.
Once the deck is randomized, it must be presented to an opponent. By this action, players state that their decks are legal and randomized. The opponent may then shuffle it additionally. Cards and sleeves must not be in danger of being damaged during this process. So that means when you're shuffling your opponent's deck, you do it gently. I mean, again, let's go back to Legacy here. Do not give one of those twist the cards up like riffle shuffles to your person's $1,200-$1,500 deck that you're sitting across.
Oh my god.
They're not your cards. If you want to bend the shit out of your volcanic islands, go ahead. But don't do it to somebody else's. Just don't do that. If the opponent does not believe that the player made a reasonable effort to randomize his or her deck, the opponent must notify a judge. Players may request to have a judge shuffle their cards rather than the opponent. This request will be honored only at a judge's discretion. So, if you see somebody just pile shuffle their library and give it one riffle shuffle and hand it to you, call a judge. Because that is not sufficiently randomized.
Or just people who just pile shuffle, pick up their deck, and present it. I've actually had someone do that to me at a GPT. I'm like, I don't think that works.
If a player has had the opportunity to see any of the card faces of the deck being shuffled, the deck is no longer considered randomized and must be randomized again.
This I see a ton, especially in Limited.
Yes.
The way people just like shuffle their decks, and they'll just see like a card, and then they'll start shuffling again. That's cheating.
Yep.
It's just straight up if you're shuffling your deck and you happen to see that the bottom card of your deck is Aetherling and that's the one win condition in your deck, and then you're just like, better shuffle more because I can't win if it's the bottom card, that's cheating. You have information about what's happening and your deck is no longer random.
Yep. So then you got to shuffle like another 7 times to make it completely randomized.
7 times.
And the other one I've seen is where someone will take a deck and they'll do the kind of shuffle where they kind of stack the cards next to each other and push them together. But they will stack them so the card backs are facing their opponent.
Yeah, because you can't.
And the card faces are facing themselves, so they can actually see their deck as they're shuffling it.
Yeah,
and people just let that happen.
Yeah.
If you see somebody, an opponent at a big event doing this, call a judge. Yeah. Don't let them get away with that nonsense.
Some people just do that out of habit, and then they shuffle their deck normally. If they shuffle their deck normally afterwards, present and let you shuffle their deck, that's fine.
Yes, that's part of the key. Is no matter whatever procedure they take for doing shuffling, as long as they go through a lot of real shuffles afterwards, and we'll get to more of this too. We do have one more rule to get to. At competitive and professional REL tournaments, and REL is rules enforcement level, at competitive and professional tournaments, players are required to shuffle their opponent's deck after their owners have shuffled them. The head judge can require this at regular REL tournaments as well. So let's touch on this one a little bit. This is something that I think actually takes some getting used to the first time you do it.
Yeah, a lot of people feel it's taboo to shuffle your opponent's deck, and they think it's like scummy, and it's...
And the first few times I did it, I always kind of had this feeling in the back of my mind that my opponent would be offended that I was shuffling his deck. Like you're saying something like, you're not shuffling it well enough, so I'm going to shuffle it now.
Like asking to see your opponent's graveyard. It's one of those things where people are just like, ooh, I don't know if this is okay. Is this...
Yeah, and it's almost
weird to them at first.
It almost felt at first like you thought that they would feel like you're accusing them of cheating.
Yeah. Like calling a
like
judge.
This is actually,
some people still feel that way.
Like you're actually saying that this, you're actually, by shuffling your opponent's deck, you're actually saying to your opponent, I don't think you shuffled well enough.
Nope, you're just removing all doubt.
Yeah.
Because if you shuffled the deck, then, hey.
And if you're a big event, it's required.
It is, yeah.
After you've been doing it for a while, it gets to be perfectly natural. It's a good habit to be in. Again, at a Friday night Magic event, I probably won't.
No, I won't either.
Just because I can't be bothered. Because it's Friday night Magic. It's more casual. It's more relaxed. You're there to have fun, mostly. And honestly, a lot of times, the caliber of player you're facing in a Friday night Magic event is not somebody that's going to be able to manipulate their deck while they're shuffling it.
Fair enough.
Some of them are lucky to be able to be shuffling it. So, you just shuffle it and let them shuffle it and just hand it back to them. Completely lost my train.
It's good, no.
Casey Jones is just right to the wall there.
What does that even mean?
Casey Jones?
Who the
The
fuck is
famous
Casey
train
Jones?
engineer that died in an accident. The train. I lost my train of thought. Can't you follow this?
That's where that saying comes from?
I lost my train of thought, so I referenced Casey Jones.
Well, I didn't know who Casey Jones was.
He's the famous train engineer.
Let's ask the listeners who the fuck Casey Jones is.
Okay, you are the best and the brightest. I know that you know who Casey Jones is.
I don't know who Casey Jones is.
You do now.
Well, yeah, and I'm mad that I do.
He's a famous train engineer. Now you understand what the name Casey Jones is all about.
Okay, fantastic.
He died saving all these people from the train wreck and stuff like that.
Oh, he saved them. I thought he caused it.
No, he didn't cause it. No, he died heroically trying to stop it.
That's completely different.
Oh, yeah.
You said he killed all these people in a train crash. I was like, bad Casey Jones.
Well, people died. No. He was attempting to stop the train wreck from happening.
Oh, okay.
It was bad switching or whatever.
Good on you, Casey Jones.
Anyway, so at Friday night events, I don't do this, but at big tournaments, I do.
Yeah, just give your
deck a little shuffle.
Competitive, just give him a little cut. That's fine.
And it's required.
Yeah.
Technically, under the rules. I mean, again, I don't think I've ever seen anybody get a violation for not doing it. That would be an interesting judge call. Judge, my opponent didn't shuffle my deck after I handed it to him.
I have no idea. I don't think that's an
infraction.
Required.
It's required. I don't know if it's an infraction or not. I'll have to look that one up.
Because basically it's for the benefit of the opponent to shuffle the deck.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But if you're not doing
so it's basically seatbelts? I don't
know.
Do it because you should.
Consider it like a seatbelt. Or if you hate seatbelts, don't consider it.
Public service announcement. Always wear seatbelts. Also, never buy trunk steaks.
Never buy trunk steaks. So, what is the goal of shuffling? This may seem kind of obvious. It's to properly randomize the deck. It's so that neither player has any idea of where cards are in the deck. It's to make sure that the variance is in place.
Completely level playing field.
What do we want as players? Even distribution, which is not randomization.
No, that's cheating.
But that's what you would prefer.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So even though you're shuffling, in your mind, so this is a piece I want to dig into a little bit.
Okay.
In our minds, while we're shuffling, what do we think we're doing? We're actually thinking we're creating even distribution in the deck.
Some may think that. I don't really think that.
The average person, I think, thinks that while they're shuffling, if they shuffle enough and the deck is well randomized, that they're going to draw hands and start drawing, and they're going to get a nice even mix of cards. That's not what randomization actually means.
No. Random is a very different term than what people use it for.
Because when you have something that's truly randomized, you get clusters.
Yeah, and people think that pile shuffling and all these things fix clusters. They don't fix anything.
No.
Because if they did, if pile shuffling actually made your deck have different assortments of lands and spells in the way you want it to, that's cheating. It's not random. Then there's no point in pile shuffling.
Yep. Absolutely.
So frustrating. That's one of my biggest pet peeves in Magic is people telling me that pile shuffling fixes their draws and it makes their deck work better. I have piled shuffled maybe once in a tournament. I just never do it. I did it to make sure my deck was 60 cards. That was it.
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll touch on this. I had it down for later, but we'll touch on this.
Okay.
Pile shuffling is one of the shuffling myths that exist. It does not randomize your deck. No. People will do that, and I'm going to put a link. There was a fabulous article by Flores about shuffling and true randomization.
All right, so he had 2 good articles. Okay.
Yeah. And I'm going to put a link to this one definitely in the show notes. But it was very good, and he goes through mathematically and explains to you exactly why pile shuffling does not actually randomize anything in your deck, even though people feel that it does. There's 2 reasons why you might pile shuffle. One is to actually count your deck.
That's
a very valid reason to do it, to lay out all the cards in even numbers of piles and count them as you're doing it, so you know that you have the proper count of cards in front of you. That's a very good reason to pile shuffle. The other reason is emotionally. People feel like it's going to make their deck better.
Yeah.
Whether it actually does or not. And perception of reality here may count for something.
Yeah. Placebo effect.
Yeah, there is a placebo effect. If they feel like their deck is not properly randomized by not doing that, they may play worse.
I personally like to feel like I'm waiting on my opponent to do something, and I have that like moment of clarity. Some people get that moment of clarity from pile shuffling.
Yes.
And it's their like time between games to clear the head and do stuff. I'd rather be sitting there waiting for my opponent to do something and just having that time.
So, I mean, there are legitimate reasons to pile shuffle, but that's not all you do. You have to pick it up, and then you have to do ripple shuffles or what's called the weave shuffle. We'll touch on that. It's not mana weaving. We'll come back to that.
If you do anything that makes your deck less random, your deck isn't random.
Yes.
Like, it just completely negates what random means.
Yep.
It's so frustrating.
And pile shuffling is actually making it less random.
Your deck has to be random.
Yes. It has to be randomized. 3 basic types of shuffling. Obviously, we've touched on the pile shuffle, which, and even on the Wikipedia article, said this doesn't randomize anything.
It doesn't.
It breaks the cards up, but it doesn't actually create randomizing. It doesn't improve the kind of draws that you're going to get or anything. Riffle shuffling, which is where you take the 2 stacks of the cards and you just kind of put them on your thumbs and then disperse them and put them together. Mm-hmm. That's the typical shuffling. And then there's a shuffle type that's called weaving, which is not mana weaving, which we will touch on in a moment. But that's where you take the 2 stacks of cards and you just push them together. That's actually called weaving.
I didn't know that was called weaving.
So anytime you see that there are different ways of doing it, I usually do it where I have the one pile in one hand, the other pile in the other hand, just kind of push them together. I've seen people like put them on the table and stack them and slide them together.
Is what I'm doing right now weaving? People at home who can't see this, I do like the ocean.
Yep, so where you take one pile of cards loosely in one hand, another, and you put one on top of the other and just kind of push them together.
Jam them together.
Oh yeah, jam them in there, let them bend and twist.
Just ruin your deck.
That's actually called weaving. That's what that style of shuffling is called. And we already touched on why to shuffle your opponent's deck, because the rules require it. And why not?
Yeah.
It's a good habit to be in.
You're not a dick for shuffling your opponent's deck.
You're really not. You're really not. Now, I had some myths. Obviously, we've talked about the myth of pile shuffling. The other phrase that I hear that I feel like is kind of a myth, that really is like a barb under my skin, is mana weaving. Like people go, oh, he's mana weaving. He's mana weaving. You can't do that. You can't mana weave. The fact of the matter is, before the match starts, if you want to take your deck and put lands, spells, lands, and evenly distribute everything in your deck before you actually start shuffling it, that's perfectly legal.
Yeah, because if you actually shuffle afterwards, it randomizes your deck again, and your deck becomes random.
It's kind of a waste of time, because you have to shuffle again anyway, and you're going to re-randomize it. But there's nothing actually wrong with doing that. If that's all that you did...
It is wrong if you give it like one shuffle and you're like, I'm good.
That's the issue. If you do a mana weave, if you do an even distribution of cards in your deck, and then you shuffle like once and hand it, that's not properly randomized.
Mana weave, one shuffle, party time. It's not. It doesn't fly.
That doesn't fly. But if you do a sufficient number of shuffles, ripple shuffles, or weave shuffles afterwards, then that's fine. Yeah. However you want to start the deck before you start shuffling is fine. You could have all your lands in one pile, all your spells in the other pile, and then start shuffling. It would be just as random as long as you're shuffling properly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the other big myth that, again, is like a barb in the other end of my spine is the shuffler on Magic the Gathering Online. All the time. All the time. If you've ever played on Magic the Gathering Online, you're playing a game, there's a little chat box on the side, and people will go, fucking shuffler.
Oh, shuffler screwed me.
Shuffler screwed me. Boy, I guess the shuffler likes you.
I misplayed on turn 2, but I'm going to blame the shuffler.
There's 2 things at work here. part of it is people are jerks and they don't want to accept responsibility for either playing badly or building their deck wrong, or they're not willing to accept variance in the game because it's there. You don't hear the pros ever complain about shuffling or shufflers or variance.
Well, I've heard some, but
it's a general rule.
They generally accept it better.
Bitch about variance in the game.
Usually, no. He's very.
He understands it's part of the game.
Yeah, Magic would not be fun if there was no variance. I don't think.
No, it would be like
land,
like chess, but it would be like chess where you know every single move beforehand. I mean, chess boils down to people memorizing these opening sequences and recognizing what your opponent's opening sequence is. Mm-hmm. There's actually people in the chess community that want to have chess rules where you start with a random assortment of pieces on the board and in random locations.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
It adds a variance. And you don't hear, but the people, and again, I'm making a very broad generalization here. It's actually a fairly small subset of people that complain this way. But it happens enough that it becomes really irritating. And so you have people that are jerks that don't want to accept responsibility for things they've done wrong. They're unwilling to accept variance, and they're not aware of what randomize means.
Yeah, it's just... Why is this so hard to understand?
They don't understand that you're going to see clusters. Randomization does not mean even distribution. That's even distribution. That's not randomized. You're going to get hands where you see all lands or all spells, and it's just going to happen.
It's like, hasn't this happened to you in paper Magic? Like, you're not used to this? Like, this is the first time it's ever happened to you? Why are you upset?
It happens much more often on Magic the Gathering Online, which, you know what? It might, because they play more games on Magic Online than they play in paper Magic. Because the games go, and sometimes much faster, because you're not interacting socially. You're just kind of clicking keys on the keyboard, and there's no chat, there's no other things going, there's no distractions, you're just there clicking away at games. Like, I can do a draft online in a quarter of the time it takes to do, like, a real draft.
Yeah.
Like, a real draft is like 4 hours. On Moto, it's 2, maybe 3.
Also, another pet peeve I'd like to talk about is mulligans. Mulligans are amazing.
We can talk about
people hate mulligans? Imagine if you had to start every game with 7 cards and you just couldn't get rid of it. Then variance would be horrible.
Oh, yeah. Variance would be your nightmare hanging over your shoulder at that point.
Being able to go to 6 is a benefit to you. It's not a detriment. Like,
I understand why people have a hard time with it. Like, feeling like you're down a card. The card disadvantage feels bad.
I've won so many games on mulls to 4 and 5. It's just...
Oh, yeah.
This is a blessing. Like, I'm happy when I get to mulligan.
Because what you're doing... So, and this... I'm regurgitating things I've picked up mostly from, like, limited resources. Because Sutcliffe is a longtime poker player and a very good Magic player. And he came to Magic understanding certain things. And one of those things, and I may be mangling this a little bit, but your goal in any given game of Magic is not to win the game. It's to give yourself the highest percentage chance of winning the game.
Yeah.
There is some percentage chance that you're going to lose any given game of Magic.
Yes.
It's just built into the game. It happens to everybody. Even LSV can go mulligan down to 4, all spells, no lands, I lose.
Brick off and die, yeah.
The best players in the world are not going to win with those hands. There's going to be games that you're just flat out going to lose. You need to give yourself the highest percentage chance, even if that percent is 10 or 15. Or you're moving yourself from 15 to 20 by taking that mulligan. So, yeah, you've only got 20% chance of winning this game, but it's better than the 15% chance you had before you took the mulligan.
It's true. If your hand can't beat Storm, you mulligan to 6 until you find what you need. Right. There's no use keeping a 7-card hand because it's 7 cards and dying.
Exactly. So that's where knowing your deck really comes in, and knowing your opponent's deck, and knowing what hands you can and can't keep.
We'll touch on mulligans in the future, but
mulligan is an art, definitely. So again, I highly recommend people check out this article if they want to know more about shuffling, and that's probably more about shuffling than I ever wanted to know. So now it's time for our random card of the week.
Yes!
Tick, 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 tick.
Tick.
Dang. You're supposed to ding. Dang.
Dang.
This card is from Lauren. It's called Changeling Berserker. It's 3 and a red. For a creature shapeshifter, it has the ability of Changeling, which means that it is every creature type at all times. It has haste, and it has champion a creature. When this enters the battlefield, sacrifice it unless you exile another creature you control. When this leaves the battlefield, that card returns to the battlefield. It's a 5/3. Not sure about this card.
Champion a creature is a very gimmicky ability.
It is. It's not a specific creature. You could champion a creature with an enters the battlefield ability.
That is true, but if you only have one creature in play and they kill it, your Changeling Berserker is binned immediately.
Yep, because that's a triggered ability. It goes on the stack.
And I believe that if you play it into a... Yeah, you're not actually targeting, though, which is pretty good. So if you have two creatures and they kill one in response, you can just exile the other one.
Yeah, it's kind of like a clone effect you can pick. And it's not creature type restrictive, because it's all creature
I believe
types.
the other ones were, too.
Yeah.
That one's kind of cool.
Like the Kithkin.
Yes, yep.
And
Misfine Click, Fairies.
Yep. And I'm sure there's others. Those are the two that come to mind.
But he's a...
It's a thing, in a limited environment. Again, I'm not that familiar with Lauren environments, but a 5/3 for 4 seems fine. He's not color restrictive.
Yeah.
So he's definitely splashable. He's a big body. And if you do have something with enters the battlefield abilities, you might be able to get a little extra value out of him.
Yeah, you're paying a lot for that champion a creature, though. That it doesn't... You think you're getting a sweet deal for a 4-mana 5/3 with haste, but that's a really big drawback, having to exile one of your own creatures. The 4-mana I don't think makes up for it, but I'm sure he was solid in that format.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, maybe you have... It's hard to say. It really is very situational with a creature like this. You really need to know the environment. That was kind of interesting.
One day we'll get a great card.
Which, by the way, speaking of great cards, we had a great card.
Oh.
I went deep.
Boys and girls, listen to this.
This is amazing. So last week, our card was Chain of Acid, which was the sorcery for 3 and a green. You could destroy a permanent, and then the control of that permanent copies Chain of Acid, and if they want, and destroy another permanent. I built a deck for this.
Yep.
I was thinking about this, and I realized you could actually target your own permanent.
And keep copying it.
And keep copying it over and over again. And then it came to mind. The cheese stands alone.
Just the cheese.
Just the cheese, and nothing but the cheese. And if you want to see this work of art,
we'll say that
that has been created,
we'll go with
I
work
will
of
post
art.
a link in the show notes for this show. I actually created a deck that this card functions in.
Yep.
And it also plays possibly one of my favorite Kamigawa instance, One with Nothing.
Yeah, the sweetest tech against Owling Mine there ever was.
And you know what? I am going to leave it at that.
If you feel like winning Star City Legacy tournament in the foreseeable future, I'd pick up this deck. This deck is going places. As early as turn 6, you can have Baron Glory in play, and as early as turn 7, you can win the game.
At turn 8.
Turn 8.
Get the upkeep of turn 8.
The upkeep of turn 8.
Yes.
You had me at turn 7, but turn 8 is a little steep.
What if you
We're
ran
going deep,
Chrome
boys.
Moxes to accelerate?
And it exiles cards from your hand, too? Mox Diamonds? Oh my god!
It is!
Don't bother sleeving up on Delver.
Lion's Eye Diamond.
Are you listening, folks? Lion's Eye Diamond.
Lion's Eye Diamond gets you the mana and lets you dump your hand.
But then you'd lose the Baron Glory or Chain of Acid. It's just another one with nothing.
You have to get the Baron Glory out first.
Okay. No, but if you play Lion's Eye Diamond, you don't have to play with one with nothing anymore, because then you can just turn 6, do both, and discard your hand. Oh, no. What is this? This deck is just blowing my mind.
I'm loving this.
Nothing I'm saying actually works in real life.
Look at the deck. Just look at the deck.
Just check it out.
And we'll tweak it, and I want to bring this to a Star City event.
Okay. You can find us at the 03 bracket at Star City if you'd like us to sign your cards.
Absolutely. All right, now we're going to move on to Wild Speculation. First of all, any cards you're looking at right now?